Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the third day of July 2025, getting ready for Independence Day tomorrow, and want to wish you all a good day. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk about lots of things today. I think we're going to get into surveillance as well as grievances and some historical context here and such, and I'm going to bring my buddies on right now. Karen the Riveter and Ralph the IT guy. How you guys doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we all had a great day yesterday because we were all together meeting with a group of gentlemen that are incredibly intelligent and well-informed on legal issues, lawful issues. There's a difference between the two. So for clarification, at my barn, we had a great time and we discussed all sorts of things having to do with pro se cases, freedom, liberty, as well as how do we restore the United States of America. And my buddy Dar Leaf was there, and I like Dar a lot. I think he's the only sheriff in the state of Michigan who actually understands what the job is of being a sheriff, and he does not waver from it. And I really appreciate that so much. We had several people there that you'd find very interesting. And as we go on, I think it's going to become a more interesting group because I am so interested in the whole pro se process. My lawsuits are going extraordinarily well. Their lawsuits are going extraordinarily well. And we're finding ways to hold people accountable. So I wanted to give people an encouragement on this, that there are, in fact, patriots who are not going to stand for the tyranny that we're living with. And it really does seem that it's relevant to talk about Independence Day because we are suffering the same grievances that our founding fathers did. And there really weren't that many people that stood up to fight the good fight. It would be nice if we had more people, but I understand some people just really, it's not their calling. And I think, Karen, we talked about that in great detail yesterday, in that everybody has a role. But before we get into that, I wanted to bring up something that I think is very, very interesting. And that is, I brought up some AI highlights in here, but I'm going to present this because I really like Hal Turner's stuff. He comes up with some crazy stuff. And this is one article I did a TikTok on it this morning. There are a lot of good news outlets from people who are on the ground, but this is particularly disturbing and will lend itself well to one of the conversations we had yesterday at the barn with a gentleman named Matt about surveillance. And Ralph, we've talked about it many times. But anyhow, Iran reveals Israeli software backdoors, and it affects all Gulf states via India software. So this is really significant. For the past 2 decades, India has dominated the software industry. As a result, the Gulf and Iran have relied heavily on Indian software and programmers. Turns out it reportedly all sends data to Israel in real time. After Mossad's infiltration of Iran and further investigations into China and Russia, it was revealed that Indian programmers were connected to India through Elon Musk's Starlink. Recent arrest and interrogation in Iran reveal a shocking truth. A large portion of Indian software, hang on a minute, I gotta close the window here, in Iran is actually of Israeli origin and is equipped with backdoors that transmit data to Israel in real time. This includes sensitive information such as citizen registration, passport data, airport systems, and more. More worrying, this software can disrupt military equipment and enable remote control. The same software used in Gulf states, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait. This means that the entry and exit information of everyone entering these countries, including Egypt, is monitored and shared with Israel. Iran has made a discovery public, leading to a serious crisis in these countries. A full-scale conflict with India is on the horizon, and full details are expected to be released in the coming days. I thought that was fairly interesting. Nothing that we do in the digital world, in the electronic world, is safe or secure, and we just have to remember that. So, I don't think that paranoia is a good place to go. It's just full disclosure on what's happening. it is happening. We are not in a position in an individual basis to stop it. But I do think that the good guys, the white hats out there, are letting them commit the crimes, finding out who these players are. And I believe we're honestly in a global audit of what's really gone on and what's been going on for decades. I welcome this kind of thing. I really do. I think it's necessary. And I think that we're going to have the guts to let the process work its way out. So there you go. What's your opinions, guys?
Well, there's pretty, like you said, pretty much anything digital is trackable. It's backdoored. You know, they have implemented so many different intentional security weaknesses in things that trusting anything digital is not a great place to be right now. I mean, you mentioned in your TikTok that anything Microsoft is backdoored, but it goes even deeper than that. Pretty much all of the processors themselves are backdoored. And so even if you're running Linux or BSD or some other alternative operating system, there's still a potential for backdoors there. And as far as surveillance goes, a lot of the digital surveillance now also extends into physical surveillance. You've got all the, in your cell phone, whether you've got a smartphone or not, you're still connecting to the cell towers. That can be triangulated. If you do have a smartphone, or let's say you even just have a phone with Bluetooth on, most flip phones still have Bluetooth capability anymore to be able to talk with headsets and cars and stuff. And a lot of those, there are a lot of stores now that track Bluetooth because Bluetooth is fairly short range. They'll put sensors all throughout their store to identify Bluetooth devices in a very small area so they can see where were you in the store, what were you looking at, what did you stop at for a while to, if you were looking at a product. And for smartphones that have Wi-Fi, they fingerprint using Wi-Fi as well.
Well, that's how they collect data, and they can go in. I know this because I know some people that were doing it when I was running for governor in 22, is that there's a lot of groups out there who what they do is they scrape all that information in a location. You ever been somewhere where all of a sudden you start getting either text messages that are pertinent to where you are, or on your browser things pop up? That's because they know where you are. They're grabbing your data and your location. There's pretty much no way around it too. I don't believe that that's a ethical thing to do, and I wouldn't participate in it. But I know that there's a lot of people who actually are involved in that, especially in politics. Politics is such a scam. It's not even funny. And I don't think it's understood to the degree that it needs to be understood.
Well, and that too, when you go down the highway and you see the estimated times to a particular place, they'll have the signs up next to the highways. It'll be like 4 minutes to this exit or whatever. A lot of that is tracked using cell phone sensors next to the highway that will watch for cell phones to go by and correlate them between the 2 points to figure out, okay, how long did it take for somebody to get from here to there? But you don't even need a cell phone to be tracked. They've got all the flock cameras that have been deployed all over the place next to roads, in a lot of parking lots. You go to nearly I think every Lowe's that I've been to in the last couple of years has had flock cameras in it. And they're next to a lot of the roads. Almost any of the municipalities that are smaller municipalities, not necessarily like county roads, a lot of them have flock cameras on them. And those track based not only on your license plate on your car, but they also track based on bumper stickers. And so now you're also identifying your political affiliation with those. And there was a big kerfuffle about the federal government recently contracting with Flock to absorb all that information, which in my mind is an enormous Fourth Amendment violation. But, that it happens all the time.
Unbelievable.
The 2026
And
2026 cars coming up, there's a new regulation that requires all of them to have remote kill switches where they can shut off the car remotely. There's so much invasion into our privacy invasion into our lives, not only in a digital sense, but also in a physical sense anymore. And again, it's not something to be worried about. It's something that's already here, and it's already being taken advantage of. So what are you going to do about it?
Disabled? Can that be disabled?
That's what I was going to ask.
Can you go in there and disable it or rip out the hack around it? I'm sure somebody's got it figured out.
The car kill switches, don't know yet, because
this is funny.
Yeah, don't know yet on that because the regulation goes into effect next year.
This is interesting. We're having a delay on the feed right now. I can see it even in my motion. So somebody's out there messing with us this morning. They don't want us talking about it. All kinds of games. Unfortunately, this is very interesting.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of research too. I mean, you go back, I think this was probably, I'm going to take a guess and say around 2007. There was a paper published showing how to do practical tracking of people using satellite imagery based on analyzing their gait visible by their shadow.
This is crazy. I'm having we're having some interruption here, but this is interesting. So keep going, please.
Yeah, so analyzing people's gait based on shadows visible from a satellite. And, you've got facial recognition stuff all over the place. And, we've talked before about the ability to see through walls using a Wi-Fi access point as basically a radio light source and picking that up from outside of a house. There's so many different ways of tracking people. And so, if they want to find somebody, they have all kinds of tools to be able to find somebody. So the question is are you still willing to stand up and do something about it? Are you willing to stand up and say this is wrong? And regardless of the consequences, this is still wrong,
Yeah, I want to show you guys something else too, talking about this weird world that we live in. Check this out. This is what I was trying to bring up here. And computer is kind of being weird on me. So, but look, the point is look at this. More than you're listening to this, look at this.
Person, yes. You're damn right I do. I think he's going to destroy New York City. I think this is a disaster time for New York City. This guy becomes mayor, the city is gone. People are leaving the city already. You can't say things like the things he's saying and not frighten the hell out of people. I mean, it has nothing to do with even 9/11. Had 9/11 not happened, he'd be an enemy of the city. He's espousing a philosophy that wants to destroy America, wants to destroy the Jewish people, wants to destroy the Christian people. I really would like to destroy all the Muslims who disagree with them.
I thought that was an interesting video, and I have some questions about its authenticity. Just looking at it, quite honestly. So going back to the question, everything, I think it's really important for us not to take everything at face value. And though I typically like Rudy Giuliani, that's not the point. The point is that we need to question everything, even the authenticity of the videos that we're watching.
I think it's a great exercise for everybody to start getting some of the AI tools themselves and learn how some of the fakes are done. Try doing it, not to publish it and try and deceive people. I'm not saying that, but learn how to use the tools well enough to know what they're capable of, and then realize that that's the stuff that's filtered out through to the public and is available to you. And that if that's filtered out to the public, then there are technologies that are far more capable than that.
Well, and I'll have to go back to this. I think that the news that we're getting, I constantly get asked, what is your opinion on this situation or that? I'm like, they're telling us what they want us to hear.
It is all a show.
It's all a show. It's all hands down. We're only being told what they want us to hear. And I don't hold it against the good guys, because they're not gonna broadcast this out so the bad guys know. We are in a war, and all war is deception. So it's time for everybody just to settle down on some of this stuff and honestly study the real stuff that we can do on the ground, including holding people accountable pro se, learning what the Declaration of Independence was really about, and mastering how the country is supposed to be run. I've been talking quite a bit about doing an evaluation on how to evaluate information or efforts to get involved in, and to be able to spot the fakes that are out there. I think that is incredibly important. But let's go to a couple of facts a minute on Independence Day. The Declaration of Independence was adopted on July 4th, 1776, but the actual vote for independence happened 2 days earlier on July 2nd. John Adams even thought July 2nd should be the real holiday. Interesting, isn't it? They were fighting back there on how things were supposed to be. Nothing that is ever worthwhile is easy. And sometimes we have to have discussions and discuss things when we disagree with people to actually, come to an agreement on it. Only 2 people signed the Declaration on July 4th. Most of the 56 signers added their names on August 7th, 1776. 3 U.S. presidents died on July 4th: John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Monroe. Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president, was born on the 4th of July. The first Independence Day celebration took place in Philadelphia, 1777, complete with fireworks, bonfires, and a 13-gun salute. That number 13 has some interesting connotations to it. Do you know what some of them are?
I'm not familiar. I'm more familiar with the 17s.
Yeah, 17 is my favorite number, but the 13 is a number that's associated, quite honestly, with the Knights Templar. Fireworks have been part of the holiday since the beginning, and today Americans spend over $1.5 billion on them each year. The Liberty Bell is tapped, not wrong, 13 times every July 4th to honor the original colonies. Americans eat $150 million of hot dogs. Ugh, I don't eat hot dogs. It's disgusting. I don't eat hot dogs. That's like that. Nasty. Okay. Enough to stretch from DC to LA more than 5 times. Think about that. That's insane. The Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest has been a July 4th tradition since 1972 at Coney Island. Symbols and surprises. One World Trade Center, New York City, was built to be 1,776 feet tall, symbolizing the year of independence. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Benjamin Franklin wanted the turkey to be the national bird instead of the bald eagle, calling the eagle a bird of bad moral character. So there you go. There's some. It is.
I think one thing that people don't like about it is it's a scavenger. It's somewhat like a turkey vulture.
Yeah, that was if you look back at that objection that he had to that, I think the suggestion of a turkey was actually kind of a joke to a certain extent, but he was serious about not liking the eagle because, like you said, they're scavengers.
Well, they're hunters too. I mean, they will fly down and pull a fish out of the water, and so they're kind of they do both. They're not just a scavenger, but
right.
Yes, they're a scavenger bird.
They're an opportunist.
Yeah, one way or another, they're pretty.
I tell you what, I would not want the turkey vulture as the national bird or as a state bird. I hope no state has a turkey vulture as their
turkey
bird.
vultures serve a valuable purpose of cleaning things because of how effectively antimicrobial their droppings are.
and they're spit.
Yep.
Well, I'm more familiar than most with them because while working for a wildlife rehabber, they had a turkey vulture there. So when we had food that was questionable to feed the raptors that were kept inside pens, it went to the turkey vulture. If we found a recently killed dead snake in the road, that went to the turkey vulture. But this bird was really shy. He did not like being around people. Some of the birds are like, I don't like you, but that's the way it was. They wouldn't freak out every time you walk by. And this bird was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I know you're doing something bad. Well, if you weren't really careful about that and you startled it and it got too stressed, you know what they do when they're stressed and they're worried? Well, in the wild, they can take off and fly. This bird could not fly. And that's why it was held in captivity. But they lighten their load. They do that by vomiting. And if you think what they eat smells bad going down, it smells even worse coming back up. It's really nasty. And then on one occasion, we had a guy that was working for us, and he wanted to do an educational program with the turkey vulture, which I had not done. I had a number of other birds and snakes and turtles and stuff that I would do education programs for the kids to adults. Well, he wanted to show some respect to this bird. Well, it did not like wearing jesses on its feet, which is a leather strap. So there's a permanent, or basically permanent, wristband that goes around the bird. And then you have to put a tie through that so that you can hold on to it. Well, that bird knew how to pull it off. So it was always taking it off. And you'd have to go in, catch the bird, and carefully put through another one. Well, unlike other birds of prey, a turkey vulture can reach down and will reach down and bite you during this process. And he was holding the bird because it's a big, heavy bird and it's very strong. And I was the one tasked with the other part. And it looked down at my hand and reached down and it got me pinched right between two fingers in the webbing.
Oh, I had to hurt.
Not now, thankfully it didn't shred my hand to pieces, but it didn't feel very good. He did do a successful program. I didn't get to witness it, but but then after that, no more programs. He didn't want to do any more after one.
I tell you, we have
there's
a lot of bald eagles out in Iowa, a lot of them. And so one day I was driving down the road and I came upon a bald eagle that was sitting on, I don't know, it's probably a dead raccoon or something like that. And I decided I'm going to see how close I can get to this guy with my truck, right? So my daughter was in the car with me and I said, yeah, let's see if we can get close enough. It's how close we can get to this bald eagle before it takes off and flies. So I'm creeping down the road at about, less than 2 miles an hour to see how close I get. We got within about, I'm going to say 12 feet of this bird and just kind of came real because, I'm sure he would have flown if I would have gone 50 miles an hour down the road. But we got about, 12 feet or so away from this bird. And he decided, okay, that's enough. And he started flying. And when you are that close to a bald eagle and they unfurl those wings and take off, you realize the power that they have in their ability to fly. It was absolutely majestic. And it felt really honored to be there and be able to be that close to one as it took off and such. So it was fun.
There was one in
Al Richards said that 13 is rebellion. Number 13 is also Freemason Temple in DC is 13 blocks north of the White House. Denise has got a whole bunch of comments this morning. Denise and Leb and Curtis. And let's see, we listen to cell phone conversations while working in Selfridge in the Navy. Just look at the road cameras everywhere. We're so brainwashed by frequencies. And look at someone watching TV. The screen basically makes our unconscious mind controls. I believe it does too. I really do. Now I stopped watching TV 30 some odd years ago, probably close to 40 years ago now. And what I noticed is that when you don't watch TV and you really don't watch TV, your mind picks up on things a little quicker than if you're watching TV all the time. I saw it with my kids because I homeschooled. If that TV was on in the morning before we started school, it was like they were zombies all day. It really was. So if the TV was, if I turned the TV off, they actually had more focus, more focus. They were more present than they were. And so I made that the practice. And then at the time when they were really little, I just like, this is nonsense. So the car OBS onboard diagnostic system might have a control switch built in. This is how they shut off dashboard lights, etc. So that might be the way to shut off their ability to have a kill switch on when you're driving. So,
yeah, I've also heard of them using the tire pressure monitor sensors as tracking devices as well. Because that was mandated back in, I think it was 2005, that all cars must have tire pressure monitors on them now. And so yeah, since each car, or each tire has a little radio transmitter in it now, those are supposed to be only queryable by your car. However, I have heard that those are trackable outside of it as well.
Okay, well, here's another Benjamin Franklin quote by Ralph. For my own part, I wish the bald eagle had not been chosen to represent the representative of our country. He is a bird of bad moral character. He does not get his living honestly. You may have seen him perched on some dead tree near a river where, too lazy to fish for himself, he watches the labor of the fishing hawk. And when that diligent bird has at length taken a fish and is bearing it to his nest for the support of his mate and young ones, the bald eagle pursues him and takes it from him. I am on then they're skipping an issue. I am on this account not displeased that the figure is not known as a bald eagle, but looks more like a turkey. For the truth, the turkey is, in comparison, a much more respectable bird, and with all the truth, original Native American. He is besides, though a little vain and silly, a bird of courage, and would not hesitate to attack a grenadier of a British Guards who should presume to invade his farmyard with a red coat on. So that's it.
So he's at his farmyard. Wild turkey doesn't own a farmyard.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, maybe they did at the time. Who knows? They may have domesticated them just to keep them. Like Americans. Americans have been domesticated and refuse to be rabid when they see tyranny there. We're getting there, though. We're getting there.
I had an experience with another rehab center where they had this was in Oil City. I interned there while in college, and I created an internship with this rehabber, and he had a bald eagle named Jack. Jack had a wing injury, so he wasn't a strong flyer, but he could get from one end of his large pen to the other. But he couldn't just take off and rise. He had a dip, and then he could get to the perch on the other end. I knew about this, but my parents didn't when they came to visit. They came into the door, and Jack, he starts making a bunch of barking sounds because he's upset that new people are in there. And then he takes off. And like you said, Donna, those wings go, and he starts taking off, and then he drops. I didn't duck, but they sure did. And he made it to the other end where he felt a little bit more comfortable, but it was a fun moment. They make a lot of different sounds, not quite as many as chickens or anything like that, but they have a whistle that they do with their tongue, but they also have a guttural sound that I have not been able to imitate. I can imitate pretty accurately a lot of different kinds of birds.
I want to hear that. Animals. Right, I want to hear that.
Yeah, I want to hear that too.
Yeah, okay, Karen, you threw it down right there. So,
well, the other day, who was I with? I was with somebody, and they said it was probably my sister-in-law. She had a mourning dove in her area near her backyard. We were in her backyard looking at plants. And another rehab center experience, when we were doing programs out of that one in Oil City, he had a mourning dove. and we went to an event, and when it wasn't being pulled out and people were petting it, it was sitting in there cooing and cooing and cooing. So I got a lot of practice on that one. See if I can do it. That's my morning.
Another talent.
I don't know how well it comes through here, but I can do a mean raccoon. You know, I have a thing about raccoons like I have a thing about possums, except I despise opossums and wish they could be removed from my area of the world. Yeah. Well, I raised and released 70 of them.
Possums?
So, possums.
You raised 70 possums.
70 baby possums came through the Indiana rehab where I worked. And 17, I'm not kidding you, 17 raccoons, not counting the albino that I caught. But that one escaped. It was in an outdoor pen and somehow escaped. But yeah, you can. It was near a roadside in a ditch, and they don't. Often one of the problems with albino animals is that it can affect their eyesight. And I think it was blinded by the light. Well, somebody called in and said, I don't know what it is, but it's a white animal and I think it's injured. Well, no, it was just confused. And I think it was an adolescent, and it couldn't get out of that spot it was in. And I think the traffic was probably scaring it. I got there not knowing until I walked up on it and it growled at me what it was, because raccoons have a particular type of growl.
Did he have a mask?
Which I can imitate too.
Did he have a mask? Or was it totally white?
Totally white.
Totally white.
Totally white, probably pink eyes. I don't know if I have a picture of it, but I was able to I had somebody nearby that we kind of startled it, moved it a little bit into a crate and carried it off. But see, in the wild, you'll get something like a great horned owl that'll take that, or a coyote, because raccoons are out at night, but they're highly visible like that. And a great horn could take a skunk too without worry. But skunks aren't exactly camouflaged at night. And of those 70 possums that I raised, one was black. All the rest were gray. And only one time did I ever have one get still and kind of pretend to die.
Huh. So there's
and if they were startled, they would hiss. And they have more teeth than any other mammal.
So here you go. The analogy is to politicians. They pretend to care. They're pretenders. Possums pretend to die and they don't, and politicians pretend to care and they don't. So, anyhow.
Do you want to hear my baby raccoon?
Yes, absolutely.
They're really, really cute when they're little. It's not until they're later in the year when they're like, they don't want to have anything to do with you and they want to be released, that they get nasty. But when they're little and they're like, please take care of me, my mommy is not here anymore. They do this. It's like a my dog's looking at me funny.
That's pretty cute. Where in the whole internet would you find stories like this? I
got lots more where those come from.
That's fun. Well, I just looked up something and I thought we'd go through the biblical perspective on Independence Day. Does that sound like fun?
Sure.
Okay. A biblical perspective on Independence Day can inspire by focusing on the themes of freedom, gratitude, and responsibility rooted in Scripture. Freedom is a gift from God. Scripture teaches that true freedom comes from God. Galatians 5:1 declares, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Independence Day reminds us to cherish the liberty we have, both as a nation and as individuals redeemed by Christ. This freedom is a gift, not to be taken for granted, but to be stewarded with humility and purpose. I think it's a good statement. Gratitude for God's providence. The founding of a nation under principles of justice and liberty reflects God's hand in history. Psalm 33:12 says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. As we celebrate, let's give thanks to for God's guidance. protection and the courage of those who fought for freedom, trusting him to sustain us still. I think that that's a really good, we had a situation where there was a person we were talking to who really had a lot of fear of going forward to fight for this nation. And I think that what I saw was, though their intention was trying to be good, you could really see the lack of faith going forward. Yeah. Very disturbing, because whenever we're going forward into any fight, nothing that's worthwhile is easy. Nothing. It doesn't matter what happens when we go into a fight. It's our job just to walk forward with faith in God and let him worry about the outcome. So like when we go into fights, a true warrior will look at a fight and go, yep, I'm going to do this thing, and not even think about it when they know that it needs to be done, or that God Almighty is directing us to do that. So we can look at that as a story, a beginning, a middle, and the end. Most people drop out in the middle. They really do. They'll start with great intentions, but when things get tough, they will not continue the fight. We see that in business. We see it in politics. We see that in many parts of our lives. They just will not continue on because it's not fun at some point. But realistic, or they get scared off. They get spooked out on things. You know what? If you're getting flack over anything you're doing, you're probably doing the right thing, because you're going to be attacked. The way you get through it is to rely on God. Keep your focus on God, realizing he'll carry us through anything. And our job is to step forward with the things we see that we know need to be fixed, without regard to how it ends. We keep going towards that goal, and we refuse to be dissuaded, spooked, so that we don't go forward and into stopping or becoming paranoid or ineffective. It is God's job. The end of the story is God's. He's going to have it go one way or the other, but regardless, we win when we keep going and let him worry about the end of the story. So even though during the 1770s, they really didn't know how this was going to end. And they said, right, we're giving you a republic if you can keep it. They knew that the evil forces were there and operational even back then. And the question is right now is, we're seeing the results of centuries at this point of evil that have been trying to pick away at this. It's not going to end until Christ comes back. We are not going to have a utopia in this world without being willing to maintain it, because evil is going to try to find its way back in. Our job is to try to put enough stops in the process and have enough people who are educated in what it's supposed to work like to be able to step forward and defeat the evil and go on anyway to the next battle. We're never going to be battle free. So somebody asked me yesterday, when is this battle going to end? I'm like, yep. Never. Okay. Until we die, there is going to be a battle here, or unless God, takes us off the front line and says, sit on the bench for a little bit. I'm going to put somebody else in for a little while.
And even after that, there's still going to be a battle.
There's always going to be a battle. And that's how we learn and we grow. And it is when things get really interesting. I cannot believe how much I've learned by jumping into pro se and figuring things out. The people at the AG's office, they're stupid. Okay. I'm going to tell you what, it's amazing how weak their arguments are. All right, let's go to the next one. And then
I would also say too that fighting is that battle is part of the brilliance of the way that this country was originally founded. And a lot of that has gotten short-circuited, and that's what causes a lot of the problems now. The way it was originally set up, there were checks and balances between a lot of the different systems. And, for example, we've talked about before you've got the Electoral College that was in there as a stopgap to keep the president from being elected by popular vote. You had the Senate that was not supposed to be elected by popular vote. so that there was a time delay on some of this stuff, and it was a true republic where there were multiple layers to slow down any of the radical changes and infringements and make sure that there were always people to oppose any action that would be contrary to the public's interest. And we've short-circuited a lot of those methods of setting up those conflicts. The conflicts were there intentionally to protect us, so that there were always people debating both sides of an issue. And we've lost a lot of that, and so that's why when people say, "Oh yeah, we're a democracy," or "No, we're not a democracy," well, we're supposed to be a republic, and a lot of the problems that we've gone into have been because we have gotten dangerously close to being a direct democracy.
Well, and the critical thinking element out of that, where people are like, yes, I love this headline, axe my tax. And then they don't, or some of the other ones. And yes, I'm on a rampage over this because it's not what the headlines, the result is not going to give us what the headlines say. If you do a thorough analysis to it.
Go read the petition language.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I find frustrating about the war. We're talking about when it's going to end. For me, I would love to come out of the fakeness. I would love to come out of the pretend and the show. I would love to go back into a realm where at least some of what we see is reality, because it's so hard to discern what the reality is when everything they throw at us is fake. And I think another aspect of that is, so we're going, well, we trust that the good guys are working behind the scenes and they know more about the reality than we do. And that's important for our safety. So we're sacrificing truth for security instead of sacrificing privacy for security. Now it's the truth. And that doesn't feel right to me. And the other aspect of that is, we want them to tell us what to do. Well, how can we help you guys do our part? We're over here scrambling. What is our part to do? And from time to time, they throw out hints. We talked about Trump being a master kind of manipulator of truth and narrative. And sometimes what he is doing, at least in part, is to get us to kind of steer the conversation that we're having in a certain direction. Like I was talking about him trying to steer us into the big bill. Or maybe Elon Musk is doing that with this third party conversation. It doesn't matter whether he actually starts a third party or not. Is it time for us to start talking about these two parties on a national level? And maybe that's what he's hinting at. And they give us nudges, and then sometimes they give us pushes. But they're not telling us, hey, you guys need to look into the pro se thing. You get on in that, and we'll go over here and do our thing in Iran or whatever it is. Like they didn't set up a plan and give us a handbook to do our part. And that's frustrating too, because we try this and we try that, and when it doesn't go really well, we just tend to give up until we go, okay, well, you get to a point where you just kind of, the apathy is not necessarily a lack of willingness, and it's not necessarily an aspect of education. It's just like, I can't see that path ending well because there's this obstruction in the way that I can't get beyond.
Well,
so it's hard.
I think that what we've got going on right now, honestly, is that we're going to have to realize that in order to have self-governance, we need to know what that looks like. What I see with a lot of the people who are in the political parties and such, and I'm not going to say everyone, okay, it's not a blanket statement, but a lot of them, they're good people and they want to do the right thing. They don't know what to do. So they jump in with no education to the system at all. And they rely on other people to tell them what to do,
Yeah.
what to think, what to believe, who's good or bad, who do you follow? How many times have you been asked that? Who do you follow? Well, let's see, I follow God. And the rest of that, everybody else is kind of like on a per situation approval basis, because I don't really follow or trust anyone else, honestly, not 100% of the time, because even the good guys use disinformation to get the bad guys. So the biggest exercise we're going through right now is learning to think critically, and also so we can self-govern. So we're not dependent on who's controlling the narrative, what we're supposed to think, what we're supposed to do, and such. We have to figure this out for ourselves. If we had everybody turning off the feeds that come into their heads, including this one, okay? I'm just going to say that right now. You've got to be independent. And if you want to listen to things like I do, I listen to everything. I literally listen to every side of every argument all the time, but I don't follow any of them. I just listen and try to go, wow, that sounds interesting. And then let's see where this leads us, right?
Well.
But honestly, I think the biggest exercise that they're putting us through, besides critical thinking, is, are we going to get sick of this enough to step up and fill an office and kick these morons out that don't have any education, that are just taking orders from above? Why are we any different if we are listening to people telling us what to think than the idiots in office who are taking orders from, I don't know, the World Economic Forum, Israel, the powers that be, AIPAC, that's following around our elected officials and telling them what is, giving them trips to Israel so that they can curate the content there and make them great little foot soldiers.
Oh, but AIPAC doesn't send people to Israel.
Oh, yes, they do. Oh,
no,
yes.
They don't.
Yes.
It's a separate organization. They have nothing to do with that whatsoever.
Yeah. Go ahead and like that one. Codfishes out there. That's a codfish move right there.
Well, here you go, Donna. So
we're not sending anyone there.
So this is the barrier you're up against now, because you're on a crusade to get candidates, while at the same time preaching the fakeness, in a sense, of the election process. We all know it's riddled with issues, so it's really hard to get people dedicated to head into that and participate in a system that they know is fake, where everybody else already in that system is fake. They're not supposed to be there. They were selected. They were selected by sham elections, so that's where selected comes from. And they're not supposed to be there. Nobody's gotten them out by any process yet. And they haven't seen any results. This is what I was saying yesterday. We haven't seen or heard results of cases where people have fought this successfully, any of this. And when you go into the court system to try to fight it, the court system is corrupt. And so they see that barrier down the end of that path and they go, well, why would I want to invest myself in that? That is one of the struggles that we, was that?
I say that every day. It's like,
yes.
Oh, you got to be absolutely insane to jump into this arena. But you know what? Once again, you have to trust God sends you on a mission. Any mission that is worthwhile is going to feel like insanity at some point in time. That's where you have to stop, think through what you're seeing, not take it as a direct assault or personally, and go, okay, I'm going to get you buggers. It's just going to be a matter of time, and let God worry about the end.
And that's the thing where when we're going to go back to faith versus fear, and where this dedication aspect comes from, because you may see obstacles later on down the line, but what you don't know is you've got people behind the scenes, other people besides Donna, who aren't advertising the cases that they are working on currently. We don't know how many of those there are and how long it's going to take for that success to be revealed.
There may be a lot more.
maybe it's maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's a month or two down the line, maybe it's just before the election, something happens with somebody else's effort that you don't know about that's going to be pulling away that obstacle, and suddenly your candidacy might be the only one because maybe the corruptness is going to make those other candidates just send them right out of the way. You don't even know how far the other good guys and your team, and that's the struggle, right? Because we don't know as foot soldiers what the neighboring unit is doing. We're not privy to that information. We don't know what their mission is. We don't know what the other admiral or the other general's mission might be, because we're just the foot soldier. We just do what we're told. And Donna, you didn't know what you were told, I want you to run for governor. And you're like, what the heck? But
yeah, I was like, that's
the other
gonna be
thing
a bad decision. Are you really sure that this has been well thought out? I won't lie for anyone. And so that makes me disqualified as a politician. That means I'm actually a statesman, not a politician, and it's like never been in politics. And I'm like, this has not been, your staffing metric is probably very poor. But I didn't. I'm like, okay, I'll jump in. I've never been with friggin' coffee and political coffee, and I hate them all. So I guess that makes me a good candidate.
So here you were on a path where your goal was to be elected by the people to serve in an office, a very specific office. You did not achieve that goal yet. And we still don't know, because you haven't conceded and you're still fighting that battle, what's going to happen on down the line with that. But how many times I could tell you in my life where I had a goal in mind and I was on that path for a time, and then everything about me said, it's time for you to leave this path. I didn't achieve the goal, but what I did do is learn a lot from that path. I talked about it yesterday with Moses. When Moses was in Egypt for 40 years, he was a shepherd for 40 years. And when God said, now, son, and I'm paraphrasing greatly, I've got the real task for you that I have set in a plan for you. You, sir, are going to lead these people through the desert. The people that from the place you are familiar with, who are going to wander around so that they learn to rely on me, just like the sheep that you trained. Everything in his life experience was training him for the next plan that God had for him. And even when he doubted,
if we're following God, it shouldn't matter if things change.
Yes.
We follow God. We don't follow what we have planned or our ambitions or anything else like that. You follow God, end of story. So here's another thing. I'm going to piggyback onto that. When people say, this isn't going to work, let's listen to the naysayers. It's almost pathetic. I mean, talk about pathetic. I really am done with naysayers. I'm entirely done, because they can't sit there and tell me that they have faith in God and utter those words of defeat, demoralization, or anything at any point in time. I really have to say that. I pray to God, but look at what's going on here. We're never going to make. Do you really think that this is going to work? And on and on. I'm like going, I don't care how this ends. That is in God's hand. We have to go with what is lawful, what is moral, and what it has integrity, and fight for those principles. And it's going to go the way God wants it to go. And furthermore, when we ask, God says, pray believing you're going to receive. Once you say, okay, God, I want this nation restored. Let's say a prayer right now. God Almighty, we really want this nation to be restored. You gave us a great gift, and we're willing to work for it because we believe in you and we believe in what you gave us. Thank you for what you've given us. Done. Amen. End of story. Right then and there, that is where your questions should end. And I mean entirely end. You've prayed, you believe that God is going to give it. That's what Abraham did. Abraham never saw the land, but he knew God promised him the land. He never saw it. And what did he do? He believed in God the rest of his life, unwavering. He never wavered. And that's the way we need to approach the United States and what we're seeing. Is it bad? I don't know. Maybe it's just a lesson. I'm not even going to say it's bad. But what I do believe in is I do believe that God is with us. And we prayed, and he will save a nation based on the faith of one person. He said it, he's done it. And I believe that that's the way we're going right now. Not only do I believe that there are some very good people that I've met that I want to thank them. They'll probably never get any credit for what they're doing because they're not the blah, 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 talking voices on the media. They're audience building, taking it for the money, always looking for the money. It's unbelievable. I had somebody pass me a video clip this morning, and it was on elder abuse. Is it out? And I'm not going to say who it is right now, but it's somebody who was on Stu Peters. And I sat there and I watched this clip, and I'm like going, okay, yes, elder abuse, it's a real thing. But they spent a small period of time on that, and all of a sudden, all of the products came out to sell. And it was like 5% of what they were talking about. And the rest of them, here, we've got things to end your fear and your pain. Please buy these. And I was like, I'm done. You know, it's like nobody here earns a cent on Brandenburg News Network. I have not taken money for it. I will not take money for it. I see this as my civic duty. The minute that somebody gets into, we got to raise money. We got to raise money. Oh, this is what I'm doing now to make money off of politics. It happens all the time. That is a grifter. It should not be allowed. And they should, here's a metric for saying, I don't want to be involved in it. Right then and there. Give me your money. Done. Right there. Keep your money. Your family needs it. You're being stolen from every day by people that are in mainstream media, alt-stream media, politicians, local, national. Oh, let's talk about health initiatives. And by the way, here, buy our products. It's going to help you. This is the answer to all your problems, you know. And by the way, Mr. Popeil is going to send you a brand new shiny bamboo cutting board to go with that nonsense. Unbelievable to me.
It's like how many 501c3s fight against the causes that they are supposedly for, right, because if they ever won, they would have no reason to exist anymore.
Cancer organizations, Right to Life, you know, and I absolutely say that I was diagnosed with incurable cancer years ago. Turns out you stop going to the doctor and things resolve, or you figure it out, you know. And so figuring it out is more what it is. I should really write a book on this but I don't really want to write a book because I don't want to be in that category of grifters, you know. But
yeah, having had cancer is a real good way to convince you that to never donate to any cancer cause ever again.
Yeah, it's all, we're going to take care of everything. You don't have to think about anything. Go enjoy your life. That story is told over and over and over again. Let us worry about it. That I was like done with that within a half a second when they started putting that crap in front of me. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You know, it's like, this is the girl who homeschooled her kids and also home birthed her kids. I was done with that nonsense years ago. Anyhow, responsibility. Let's go to the next one. Responsibility to live righteously. With freedom comes responsibility. Micah 6:8 calls us to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Independence Day challenges us to use our liberties to honor God, serve others, and promote justice and compassion in our communities. Okay, so let's talk to the people who show up for the free coffee and cookies so that they're in the know. And then what are you doing all by yourself without having everybody tell you what to do, how to do it, what money to give where? Put your time, which is your treasure and your money, into their effort to waste your time. Living righteously, act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. How about we do this? Let's think about things we can do to serve our communities right now. Maybe have a plan for when the system melts down, which it's going to. It's just a matter of time. Our monetary system is is absolutely broke. Our municipalities are totally broke, dependent on all federal money. What are you going to do to help provide a safety net to those you love and the people around you? I've talked to several people that I inspired them to have a greater purpose when they said, oh, if it melts down, I've got like 8 cans of soup, I'll be fine. I'm like, that's great. If you have that mindset, you're going to watch people you love die who don't have a clue of what's going on and have some foresight or knowledge of maybe we should not rely on the system so much to be able to walk down to the grocery store and grab food off the shelves when it's empty, but have some things for people in our community, or start doing some let's say get a tower, the tower I've put out there that I have. Get a tower that you can grow greens in your house without anybody's help or any other having to have land or anything like that. You can do that in an apartment downtown. It doesn't matter. But you should be thinking about the communities around you, getting people together and say, look, let's learn to have our own system that we can provide our own groceries, our own food, and you can do that whether you're in an apartment or you have a farm. Doesn't matter. If you decide, okay, I'm going to grow enough food by myself with my own effort to feed 4 families around me. Is it possible? Oh yeah, you can do 9 families on a half an acre of ground. You can produce food. I know of a guy that was making $250,000 off of growing microgreens in a 10 by 20 area. And that was his yearly production. So everybody can do something. Do something. So anyhow, responsibility. What do we want to talk about responsibility?
Yeah, that, like you said, that's something that always kind of bugs me about that mindset is real prevalent in the prepper community of, well, I'll take care of myself and screw everybody else. And it's like, well, okay, that may work great if everybody has that mindset to be able to not depend on other people for their own needs if everything collapses. But unless every single person around you has that exact same mindset, and they don't, like you said, you are going to watch people in your community die.
Yeah, where's the government? Where are they? Why aren't they doing their jobs? Maybe you should be doing your own job is the answer that I would have for that. And deciding to get off of the dependence.
And we've talked about it before too, that, it's not just about, the end of the world or the full system collapse or anything that you need to be prepared for. What happens if a tornado comes through and destroys all of the electrical infrastructure in your town?
Or they kill all the bees off.
Yep. What's the percentage of bees that died over this last winter? I think it was some. Yeah,
2/3
it was.
of the bees died over winter. I don't know any other bee. I only know one beekeeper that didn't have massive losses, and we're not sure why.
I've heard up to 3/4.
Yeah, we lost all of our hives over winter and had to restart them all. And so there is some stuff going on. But think about it. Independence Day. We need to be independent, not only of celebrating as a nation, but maybe we should have an independent. I'm going to make that up. I'm going to create an independence plan, step-by-step independence plan for everyone, regardless where you live. How's that?
Great plan.
Yeah, I every time we have a discussion, I go, oh, I got to do that a minute. Independent responsibility for these sort of things. Like I wrote a plan for being able to discern what is a fake time waster and qualifications for what you should really run things through. We have a checklist. Does it check off here, 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 here? If it doesn't, it's probably just there to waste your time. And it's probably something like, oh, I don't know, CIA app, like the flat earth thing. I actually had somebody who is very high in the government say, yeah, they were laughing about the flat earth thing as they came up with it because so many people jumped onto it. And unfortunately, a lot of their arguments goes back to the Bible, and whether they're twisting it, in my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. But that was from the words of somebody who is disgusted with the system, who has worked within the system, that had something to say. All right, hang on a minute. Let's go back to surveillance, because that's what we do here.
Hi, checkout. I wanted to buy this new bag. Yes, I know. You visited our physical location 3 days ago. That's creepy. And just stood in the bag aisle for a long time. Was this the bag you wanted to know? How did you know that? It's not magic. We use technology like EAI, VLE. Oh. Our receivers in the store pick up the Bluetooth signals from your phone and follow your movements. What? Then the EAI system aggregates this with data like RFID and IoT sensors to analyze customer behavior, like which aisles you visit, products you're interested in. But how do they know it's me? Back address if you use their store Wi-Fi, if you have their app downloaded, if you use a rewards program at purchase, all kinds of ways. This information is used for targeting, building a profile on you, or even selling. How do I stop this tracking? Do things like turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth when you're not using them, and watch MBTV for more tips. So we're going to buy that bag.
Great
Yeah,
video.
she's funny. And but yeah, and I would like to posit that, you know, if they are tracking all of us, they are also tracking themselves. They are tracking all of the politicians. So anybody with access to that information is undoubtedly going to be in possession of blackmail material on politicians, which means they are now in control of them as well. And it's not the politicians that are in control of that system. So, you know, it kind of goes back to the whole thing with JFK wanting to shatter the CIA into a million unrecognizable pieces. You know, that surveillance is not just against the general American public. And, you know, I mean, how many times have you heard from after something happens that the FBI says, oh yeah, they were on our radar?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's become a meme because, oh yeah, they were on our radar. You know, we were actively watching them, you know,
Yep.
that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, yeah, so how are you, if you've got all this data and you know what's happening with all of this stuff, and you want to take responsibility for the enforcement of all of this and take that away from the American people, why are you not the one responsible directly for all of these things taking place? You know, why do you not have criminal culpability in this?
Here I'm posting the Independence Day trivia on my Telegram channel. Ta-da! There we go. So yeah. So anyhow, back to let's see, where did I leave off here? Hang on. Get back to things. Okay, unity in diversity. Let's go to the next topic, okay? A nation's strength lies in its unity under God. Ephesians 4:3 urges us to make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. As we celebrate, let's commit to building bridges, loving our neighbors, and reflecting Christ's love in a divided world. Comments?
Well, I still maintain that diversity cannot happen in an entirely homogeneous society. You know, the idea of diversity as it's portrayed by modern culture is that, well, everything just needs to be mixed together so that everything is exactly identical and the same everywhere and there's no differences between anything anywhere. That's not diversity. Diversity means you listen to both sides of an opinion on something. Diversity means that there's choice in how things work. Not that everything is exactly the same everywhere. And so what they were portraying as diversity is exactly the opposite of diversity anymore.
It's creating protected classes of citizens and giving them advantages based on a victim mindset. That's a problem. That's the problem I had. That's one of the problems. Once again, I'm going to go back to Axe My Tax. They're making a victim class out of property owners, and they're not telling you the fact that this is not a tax abatement. This is a tax shift to local taxes that are going to be assigned differently, it's not going to drop the tax rate. But now they've got a whole bunch of people that are paying property taxes who are going to jump onto this and say, well, of course they're illegal. And so, of course, we want to vote this down. It's like, wait a minute. They're just giving you another deception, not getting rid of the taxes. They're just shifting them. And what they're doing is they're helping the corporations who own a lot of real estate get out from underneath the taxes. If I personally supported this, I would gain tremendously because I own so much property. And that's the truth. I personally own a lot of property. It would be an incredible swing to the positive for me. Incredible. But you know what? I won't do it. There's no integrity in doing that just because I have individual gain on this. There would be no integrity for it because, first of all, it stops our ability from going after them for back taxes. It stops all kinds of things that we need to address, not just having a personal gain by getting rid of property taxes. It's tied in with the entire deficit of how they're taxing us across the board, and it is not going to lower taxes, probably overall going to raise taxes in a different sector. So anyhow,
once again, go read through the actual petition language, not just the headline, because why does a petition about property tax need to extend school systems' ability to borrow money?
Yep. And why is it that it doesn't address the fact that companies that don't live in the local area, which is where the taxes are going to be shifted to, they won't have to pay any of this. They will not have to pay those local taxes. Maybe some of the people who are renting or in assisted living or in condominiums or in, let's go on and on. Let's look at the fact that this is going to help, say, like BlackRock, as an example, get out from under $50 billion worth of taxes. When has the government ever done anything in our favor? Never, nada, zero. Bad plan. Starting with that. Do we trust the government? No, and hell no. Okay, let's go to the next one. Hope for the future. Finally, Independence Day. Let's be independent. That means even in our food supplies, grow your own food. I'm going to go back to that. Finally, Independence Day points us to hope. Isaiah 40:31 reminds us that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. As we honor our past, let's look forward with faith, trusting God to lead our nation towards his purposes. Perfect. We've already gone over this one. Trust God, say a prayer, be done with it, and then let's go be productive. So there.
Yep.
So any discussion?
Do
We
that.
talk about these things all the time.
It's like a daily discussion here on BNN, right? So, inspiration for celebration. This Independence Day, let's celebrate with joy, thanking God for our freedoms, praying for our leaders, 1 Timothy 2:1, verses 1 and 2, and committing to live as lights in the world, Matthew 5:16. May our gratitude and actions inspire others to seek the ultimate freedom found in Christ and to build a nation that glorifies God. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be a fun weekend. I'm looking forward to some great changes that God has in store for us. And I do believe that they're on deck. I do believe that we have some very good people that are working behind the scenes, not shouting this out for all of our enemies to know exactly what they're doing, and basically giving them the playbook to the game. You can watch what's happening and see that things are going in a different direction. Not that we take everything in and believe everything at face value. I don't. And I think there's a lot of us out there that look at it and go, I think there's more to the story than what they're telling us here. And that's part of growing up, is being able to do a good evaluation on what's actually happening. Would you guys like me to read through the qualifiers again for involvement? My qualifying report, part of it at any rate. Here's a personal plan for meaningful civic engagement. Number 1, qualifiers. Evaluate efforts before committing. And that doesn't mean evaluation is, I heard this headline. I heard this headline, Mildred. Let's go and do this a minute. And let's show up at all the parades and we're going to support this because, yes, this sounds like a great idea. It's a great headline. Okay. And so
let's show up to all the parades. That'll show them.
That's right. I have nothing against parades, just so we're clear about this, but that's that's a very low level involvement, although a lot of fun. Okay, I do like parades, and I like riding the horses in the parades and that sort of thing with my dog.
I'm thinking parades and protests, the same kind of thing. It's like we'll just stand in the street and yell at people, and that'll show them, and that'll change the world.
That's right. We're going to show up and do all these protests and waste our gas.
And then we'll go home.
Out the windows going, look at those idiots out there. We wasted another day of their life sitting here being able to smoke our cigars and laugh at them. Okay.
Well, I'd like to point out, too, that, when you donate money to a cause, the government makes money off of that.
You bet they do.
Because if you donate your time, that hasn't been taxed. If you donate your money, you've paid income tax on that already. Even if it's tax exempt to donate it to someplace, you've already paid income tax on that, or your employer has, before you even got it. So your time, a portion of your time that you spent to generate that money, is now being siphoned off for taxes. And so when you give money, you are not just giving money to a cause, you are giving money to the government versus giving your time to actually accomplish something.
And that is a beautiful intro to what I'm going to say right now before I go back to the qualifiers plan, in fact, is that as chairman of the Constitution Party in the state of Michigan, which is the U.S. Taxpayers Party, I would like to join everybody to join us and put their time in and help restore this nation. We're not going to be based on money. Not going to happen. Because the way that things are going, we're going to have to get a new plan. And that's not going with the same system that, say, the Republican or Democrat parties are going with. And quite honestly, I am absolutely against political parties, all political parties, including the Constitution Party. However, it is a tool we can use to get good candidates on the ballot, not professional politicians, not people who have a history of going from or making their income off of politics. There's so many people, it's crazy. So if you come to join us on the Constitution Party, I'm going to tell you what, we're going to try to seat every single office in the state of Michigan with somebody who's just a regular person, and try to get people that are willing to step up in their communities and the state level and honestly turn this back. That's independence, is when we stand together, not based on how much money did they raise, how much money did they raise in their campaign, or Steve Bannon, I won't even talk to them. Okay, that is absolutely true, including a lot of other people. We're going to have to do it ourselves, stand together and right this nation. One person is not going to be able to do it. One person could do it, but the only place that they could do it is in the governor's office. But the rest of us, we've got to have people downstream, just like President Trump needs to have people at every state that is willing to step up and take the oath that means something, to stand for the Constitution and what it means to self-govern and kick all of these usurpers out of our areas, local, state, and federal. So I'm volunteering everybody, come to us and decide to run for office, because I think that that's a great way to put your time into things. We're not going to beg for money. We're going to put in our effort and just outperform them.
You can't outspend the people that can print more money.
Right. They can print it, but they can't print more of our time. And there's so many more of us than there is of them out there. There's no leadership out there whatsoever, which I'm really amused by, because I'm not seeing any leadership in anything political out there. So we're just gonna redo that.
We brought up A Bug's Life before, and that's one that deserves to have people reminded of it quite frequently.
It takes that one person that says, you know what? We've got it figured out. You need us. We don't need you. There are so many of us out there that could just stand together, and we don't need the government in the form that it is. We don't need them at all, but they need us. And there's quite a large percentage of people that are on a government paycheck. We need to rethink this, and we need to stop this. It's not what the United States was based on. We're a communist country right now. And just look at the financials. We're already communist. We need to kick these usurpers, this organized crime syndicate that's moved in like a parasite into our nation and is eating up everything, because that's all they do is they consume. They do not contribute. And so anyhow.
Well, Donna, the voter base is communist. What are we going to do?
The voter base is not communist whatsoever. They're a little gutless right now. I'm going to tell you, the voter base is gutless. It's like, oh, we got to vote for the Republican Party because no third party has ever had a chance. Really? You're part of the problem, because that's a gutless evaluation. You're still voting with an organization that should be abolished, and the people involved in it should be prosecuted for taking foreign money. Both the Republican, the Democrat Party, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, all these parties that have taken foreign money, they need to be abolished. All of them. The Constitution Party has not and will not take money in that direction. We are encouraging people to put in their time and whatever. That's the only.
Aside from Trump now. Yep. And now aside from Trump, now they're talking about Eric Trump possibly running, and there are going to be people. It's like when Obama was running. Well, we have to vote for him because he's black. Well, he was half black, but that's besides the point. Oh, we got to vote for Hillary because she's a woman. Well, we got to vote for the next one because she's a woman. Well, we got to vote for Trump because Eric Trump is a Trump. We could trust him, right? Is that how you're going to select? Or are you going to allow the selected to be thrown in your face? Are you going to select the right candidate for the right job for the right reason or not? Are you going to, I saw recently the GOP is going to offer delegate training again. It's that time again. Delegate training. We're going to train you how to follow along with what we tell you to do.
That's exactly it. You're exactly right. It's just like APAC. I'm going to say it. Taking low-level politicians, which should actually be the higher level. The local level should be the highest level, instead of, if you go to the doctrine of the lesser magistrate, the people closest to the people are the ones that should have the most power. They flipped it. They've stolen it. And just like APAC taking them and curating content in Israel, they're doing trips to Israel to program them in. I mean, that's what's happening. You can see it when we just talked with surveillance, and all the surveillance in the Middle East is going through Indian programmers programming right back to Israel. We got a problem, guys, and we're going to have to speak about it. All right, let's go to qualifiers here. Part 1. Qualifiers. I've gone through that. Alignment with constitutional principles. Constitution was written by people that went through the same tyranny that we are going through now. They had the same complaints. Exactly. They all apply now. Have we studied it? Do we know what the Declaration of Independence is? Do we know what the Constitution is? The Constitution is the form of how government is supposed to run. The Declaration of Independence is the why, and also the rights that we have. When we need to know both sides of this, both sides of the of those two documents, and then the original intent is the Federalist Papers. Read them. Prioritize that. Does the effort prioritize adherence to the U.S. Constitution and its original intent? Research the effort's stated goals and outcomes. Are they rooted in the founding documents, or do they push unrelated agendas? Example, check if the effort supports mechanisms like nullification or accountability for constitutional violations. What have I been talking about for years? it all. We got to go back to that anyhow. Accountability mechanisms. Does the effort have clear ways to hold leaders, participants, and institutions accountable? Avoid groups or campaigns that lack transparency, measurable goals, or enforceable outcomes. Red flag. Efforts that rely on emotional rhetoric or on endless debates without actionable steps. Got a problem, okay? Critical thinking foundation. Educate yourself on how governance should work, not always what's everything that's gone wrong. That's great, but we also need to know the real thing, not the counterfeit. We need to know how it should work. Educate yourself. Let's see. Let me go back to that in a minute. Lost my place. Read the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Federalist Papers. Supplement
again and again and again.
Yeah, again, because you have to. Every time you read it, it's like reading the Bible. You're gonna get something more out of it and how it applies to everyday life. Supplement with reputable resources like the John Birch Society's free constitutional classes, or as primary source documents that we can look up. We can go to those source documents. If the effort discourages independent research or critical inquiry, it's likely propaganda. Practical impact. Does the effort address?
Can we pause?
Yeah, sure.
Can you pause it for just a second? So I want to add something to that, because yesterday I was surrounded by people who have more knowledge and experience in this than I do, because they have studied those documents so often and applied them to other situations, whether it was court cases or helping somebody else with one, or just in conversation or debate. They've been in and out of those documents so often, they can sit there without any device or document in front of them and quote from it and tell you article what, section what says this, and this is what it means. And I'm just kind of, it's like being able to quote scripture, like you said. If you haven't studied it and had those type of discussions, you can't participate in that. But when someone says, well, I got pulled over and this happened, you can like John Tater, for another example. He could tell you what case applies to what situation because he's been over it so many times. And I'm not ready to do that. So it inspires me, though, to reach higher and do more of that myself.
Yes, and that's another thing, is that even going in and memorizing scripture, if you take, say, one chapter of the Bible, and I did this years ago, and you go down and you start memorizing that chapter, and sometimes it takes a lot of repetition if you're gonna memorize an entire chapter. I've done that. And so if you start and go, today I'm going to ponder verse 1. Tomorrow, I'm going to go repeat verse 1 and add verse 2. And I'm going to repeat verse 2. I'm going to write it on my hand or something, so I have to see it as I go through the day. And then you'll have verse 1 and verse 2 memorized. If you memorized a verse, think about this. If you memorized a verse every day, think about how much memory work you would have done. And not only that, it keeps you focused on God. It really does keep you with the ability of Him in the forefront of your mind. And I think that there's a huge component of that keeps our minds sharp. It keeps us exercising our mind. Your mind, if you don't exercise your mind, you lose it. You have to use it. And it's a great exercise. It's like a mental gym. It's like going to a mental gym. All right. So practical app impact. Does the effort address root issues such as violations of liberty and overreach, rather than chasing the news cycle distractions? Prioritize efforts that focus on local or state level challenge where individuals have more influence. Example, efforts to reform school boards or challenge local ordinances are often more tangible than nationally shouting matches. Because
or removing property tax.
Yes. Well, it would be a good thing to get into, but you've got to remember, you've got to research. You've got to research what's behind them and ask the critical questions like, well, what are the other implications that could happen based on this? Who's involved in it? Connect the dots, that sort of thing. And I think we're going to find things to be radically different than these well-organized, well-funded, well-pushed, ancillary emotional issues.
Well, and that goes, though, with the, does it address the core issue, or is it just doing the symptoms? And you look at the way that that's being done, it doesn't address any of the spending. It doesn't eliminate any taxes. It shifts them. And the only way to eliminate those taxes is to also eliminate the corresponding spending. You can't just remove income without also removing expenses. And if your stated goal does not also include removing the expenses, then you're not solving the core problem. You're only shifting around and playing a shell game with the symptoms.
And I think you have to go to what is the obvious gain for someone else if these things pass. It was just like the last proposals when everybody all of a sudden went, oh no, we've lost our parental rights with our kids. Well, we'll go back to, I'm not sure, and I agree with Daniel Richard on this, I'm not sure it was actually informed consent. When most people walk in to a polling location to vote, most people have never even read the proposals before they get in there and see it on the ballot. They haven't even had time to read, understand the issue. They look at the headline and it's game over. That's not really informed consent. So
I don't know even though how many people realize that the actual language of a petition is different than what shows up on the ballot.
Yep.
They think, oh, this is what was approved to be on the ballot. This is an accurate representation of it. You realize how short the limit is, the length limit for those little summaries that they put on the ballot versus how long some of the actual petition language is. And you got to remember that stuff is approved by unelected bureaucrats.
Yes. And so there's a big problem. They don't have any intention to cut into their power or their money. Okay. Avoid propaganda traps. Steer clear of efforts that thrive on outrage, division, or vague promises without substance. If the effort feels like media circus or lacks clear path to results, it's likely a time waster. So the next part of this is the actionable steps, and that's rather long. So we can start there with qualifiers, and then we can go into the actionable steps later. I think you've gotten muffled there, Karen. What's going on?
I had to come outside because the dogs needed to come out, so I'm moving the door in and out. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Well, with that said, I hope everybody has a wonderful, let's see. Oh, I've got some, let's see. We've got another couple of videos and such. You want me to put these up here? Could be fun.
You can, sure.
Let's see. I got to see if I put the video for no, I did not. Let me see. I'm going to go here. Talk amongst yourselves a minute, and I'm going to copy these resources over.
Well, and like we said at the beginning with a lot of this stuff, you can identify these problems and not be afraid of them. None of this is stuff to be afraid of, but by golly, you shouldn't bury your head in the sand and act like they don't exist.
Right.
Like all the surveillance stuff. You are being surveilled pretty much constantly in some form or another. And yet
you're still alive.
Yeah. You're still alive, and you know what? You should be aware that it's happening. And I'm not saying approve of it. I'm not saying just go along with it and say, yeah, they're watching everything and that's okay. It's not a problem and all of that. But, okay. By the same token, don't be afraid of it.
Okay, here's Schumann Legal, personal injury lawyers. Kill switch laws setting new standard in vehicle safety technology to thwart theft and impaired driving. Lie. Our article simplifies what you need to know from the law specifics to its impacts on car owners and automotive sector, equipping you with clear understanding of this key legislation challenge. Lie. It's not for our benefit. And they're using our safety as the hook. The kill switch law mandates new passenger vehicles to include impaired driving prevention technology to enhance safety and deter car theft, affecting vehicle owners and the automotive industry. Kill switches, which can be remotely controlled or manually operated, prevent vehicle engines from starting by disrupting electric circuits, thus adding security by requiring adaptation from vehicle owners. While the kill switch law promises increased safety and theft prevention, it has raised concerns about privacy, potential misuse, personal autonomy, and the need for robust emergency protocols. Understanding the vehicle kill switch legislation, it is officially known as Section 24220 of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, is a groundbreaking piece of legislation aimed at enhancing driver safety and reducing car theft. It does by mandating the incorporation of an impaired driving prevention technology into new passenger vehicles, effectively introducing a remote car battery switch into our cars to kill switch protect us or our vehicles. For the general public, this legislation brings about a new era of safety control over our modern automobiles, but it is not just us, the drivers, who are affected. The automotive industry is also facing significant challenges, with manufacturers requiring to meet new standards and adapt to vehicle designs that include these kill switches and their associated technologies. Okay, so it's all about, they're trying to do it under the guise of safety. I would say that this is one more thing that they have no business being into or mandating any such thing. This is absurd.
My question is if this is for car thefts, and they've got cameras all over all of the roads, how do we have car thefts, and who is responsible for those if they know about them?
There you go. Why are they not going after criminals?
And they're probably on their radar.
Right? And they know who's driving, where they are and such. Why are they letting this stuff go? Okay, so hang on.
Well, they do let it go 3 or 4 times before they actually spend time in jail. Hey, let's make an exercise out of that. What is the basic problem with a thing, with a law or a bill? And you get into the details when you talk to average people, but really at the basis, like the people we were talking about and with yesterday. Well, that's a violation of my right to own property as I please. Now you're gonna affect how I own my own property. You're gonna reach into my car. What is that like? Do you have a warrant to do that? You're gonna reach into my vehicle and make it do something against my will. Huh? That's a property issue. That's constitutional level. It's not how do they go about doing it. What's that?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, I just wondered if maybe you couldn't hear me. So that's all. I yield.
Yeah. Who's behind the push? Let's follow the influence. Powerful interests are shaping the law of the insurance industry. There's the usual suspect, which could save billions from reduced accident claims, but they will save it and our rates keep going up. I hope nobody believes this nonsense. Has been a major advocate for advanced safety technologies because the insurance companies care about us so much. Groups like Insurance Institute for Highway Safety and Mothers Against Drunk Driving. All right, so here we go. This is what we were talking about before. While Mothers Against Drunk Driving have had a really good historical effect, do we honestly believe that if they're behind this sort of unconstitutional mandate, that they probably aren't being used for an infringement on our rights? They have lobbied for measures like the kill switch, framing it as a critical tool to save lives from drunk driving. Right. Who's flipping the switch and how do they know that it's a drunk driver, and etc.? What happens if they kill the engine and you're running down the road and the steering column locks up? What
happens if it gets hacked?
What happens if it gets hacked? Because it's digital. This can be hacked. So what if you're going down the road and somebody hacks this thing and it drops you in a bad neighborhood where you can be ambushed? This isn't for
It drops everybody all at once.
Yeah.
That was one of the concerns that was also brought up with the transition from fully hydraulic power steering, like we've had for decades at this point, to electric assist power steering, which I believe was mandated for the lane keeping assist functionality, which of course is a safety feature, so we must have it. Well, the problem there is that now you've got an electrically and controllable through the car's computer system version of your steering. Plus, you've got the...
I want to be free. I want to live this life with everything that we can, and that we choose to do.
Plus, with the transition to drive-by-wire, with both with the steering as well as also for the throttle and braking control, now you've got an entirely computer-controlled car.
Well, that's why Obama did the cash for clunkers, to get rid of all the old cars that didn't have all the computer systems in it. Goes right back to the technocracy of wanting to control us through these global systems. The mandate comes with steep costs. Automakers estimate that developing and installing these systems could add $500 to $2,000 to the price of every new vehicle, with new cars already averaging $48,000 in 2024. So you're footing the bill on this one, guys. This is not going to be a cheap, ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So
and if you want to see the how government mandated security measures work, take a look into the prevalence of fire keys and how nearly every commercial building is pretty much completely insecure because they published the bidding code for the fire keys as part of the laws and ordinances that required them. Or look into the TSA keys for the for TSA approved luggage locks and how all of that got out there to the public. They don't have the greatest track record with coming up with security measures.
Okay, here is the Congress. I think we lost Karen here. Let's see. Here's congress.gov. HR 1137, No Kill Switches in Cars Act. So, would you like to comment on this?
So that was introduced in February to try and repeal that, and so far has gone nowhere.
Yeah, well, let's see who put it out there. Perry Scott. Representative Perry from Pennsylvania. Scott Perry. So, that's crazy. So they're kind of doing a halfway measure on this. This is unfortunate. And she reappears. So
I pushed a button.
Uh-oh.
I accidentally pushed a button. And it was a red button and the nuclear warheads went off.
Well, for just a small fee, I can sell you this blue button.
I wanted to say something what you were talking about before, because we were getting into all the problems, so many problems. And they're doing this and they're doing that. And here we go back again to what is anybody going to do about it? And for those who just don't know what to do because you feel like you're unprepared, well, then now is a good time to start learning, because there will be a time when that knowledge will be effective. It's not effective now because we have all these people in those seats, or allegedly still in those seats. I mean, that's what we're told. But at some point, that's going to change. So even if you're not prepared to do anything to take some kind of action right now, there will be a time in the future where you will be called upon to assist later on. You need to be one of those experts that go, well, this isn't right, and that's the way to do it. It takes time to educate yourself, and if you're not doing any effort to educate yourself, then there's a problem there. So that's another thing to do. It's a task list. It's just like Donna's been saying,
Okay.
read the Constitution, read the Federalist Papers, etc.
Karen, you're coming in and out a little bit. Hang on, if you can pause just a minute. I'm going to bring something else up here, and we'll see if we can get this thing running. Just a minute. Let's see if it'll go over to this now. Yeah, we're having a few technical problems right now. Here we go. We'll see if we can get it to redo. All right, here we go. I'm going to redo this and see if we can start over here. All right. All right, come on. It's not helping.
Technically, we are not sending those 40 to 60 members of Congress to Israel, educational nonprofit. Your educational nonprofit? I will maintain legal and rhetorical distance from that. Do they do other educational things besides these trips? No, not really. So Congress tries to make AIEF happy so they can go on the trip? Not exactly. We're still on the lookout for members of key committees, freshmen that are on the fence about Israel, and then most of them end up going in August when Congress is on recess. But this is the point where you hand the list over to AEIF. Not yet. We still have to plan some things like messaging or speaker lineups, site visits, prep briefing packets, things like that. And once that's done, since you're not sending them, you are taking a step back? Not quite. We still have to train AIEF staff on how to guide the trip or what we want the takeaway to be. You're certainly not going with them. No. Not as official APAC staff, we go as educational support. So you use an educational nonprofit that doesn't do other education to send members of Congress on educational trips to Israel for you, but you still end up doing the planning, and you even send your own employees as educational resources? There's a revolving door of staff and board members between our two organizations. Did you create AIEF? We won't deny it, but we also won't draw attention to it. I will say this. In addition to our incestuous staffing relationship, we have also explicitly pointed our donors to fund AIEF. And there's also a fair amount of evidence showing that we are legally separate, but functionally intertwined. And these educational trips, they're just luxury vacations that are designed to get around ethical violations? No, I mean, spouses of representatives are absolutely getting luxury trips, fancy flights, fancy hotels, fancy food, but the representatives themselves are actually quite productive. They're going on site visits, visiting with the military, meeting with politicians, sometimes even the prime minister. Wait a minute. You're not allowed to coordinate with the Israeli government. Correct, we are not. Then that's the smoking gun. You should have to register under FARA. I'm not doing anything. Yes, you are. You're sending sitting U.S. Congress members to Israel to meet with the military and politicians. I mean, you're literally coordinating with the Israeli government. No, I'm not. AIEF. AIEF. Are you saying that AIPAC sending Congress to Israel is the proof that the Israeli government is influencing U.S. politics? Technically, we are not sending those.
Kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so see, it's not AIPAC sending people on trips to Israel.
No, it's all these layered entities. That's how they do it. Over and over and over again. Well, guys, I think this is a great place to end it. What do you think?
And we've said it many times before, but this is not against the people of different countries when we talk about this. It is against the corruption in their governments, much like we point out the corruption in our own government.
Are we there? You speak against Israel and look what happens. Oh, this is interesting. So the feed got cut a little bit. Can you guys hear me out there? This is really interesting. Looks like it froze up.
I can hear you.
Are we there?
I think it may be caught up now.
Okay, that was funny. That's really funny. So at any rate, we're going to keep talking. There's nothing they can do. You can't, unless they can't stop us from talking. We have to continue on and talk about everything anything and everything, and have these discussions so that we can get to the bottom of the corruption, because that corruption bucket is pretty deep. So anyhow, well, how about we do this? Let's say a prayer, go to last words, and blessing everybody for a great weekend. How's that? Sound all right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for everything that you've given us. We are trusting you, we believe in you, and we are sitting here absolutely at peace with the world. There's nothing that we want. We want to just serve you. We want a relationship with you. And please help us to keep our eyes on you, to focus on you every single day, that our actions, our thoughts, and our words would be honoring to you. And also, I think mainly it's just, we want a relationship with you. We want to know who you are. Show us who you are this day. Thank you so much for all the wonderful people out there who are putting not only their time in it, but the effort to do things in this world to make the world a better place. We love your world that you created for us to be on. We're thankful. We want to walk with you on this world, and everything that we do, we want you present. We invite you in to our homes, to our communities, to our states, to this country, to the whole world. We invite you. We want you here, and ask for you to walk with us every day. Help us to listen to you, to focus on what you're trying to tell us, and so we're not distracted by things that waste our time or that steal from the resources that you've given to us. We thank you so much for giving us your word, that we can study the Bible. We can study these documents that good men have created in the founding of our country. There's so much wisdom out there. Help us to continue to focus on, first and foremost, your word as a standard for how we should act, what we should do, and the rules of the world that you created into this. It's like, as I said before, you're like the mechanic of the world, not just the creator, but also the mechanic. You know how it works. We don't always know how it works, but you know exactly how it works, and you know what keeps it running right, so that we can have peace with each other, peace in the land. Peace is the prize. Please bless everyone this weekend with a wonderful, wonderful Independence Day, where they're inspired to seek liberty and freedom, the freedoms that you've given us, and to hold other people or systems accountable that are set against you, because we know that the war that's going on, it's a war against you, the evil that is constantly fighting you, that's trying to destroy what you created and tarnish what you created, to drag it down, to destroy and such. And you know what? We're standing on your side of this issue. We're here to in service and in love to you. Please help anyone who's having emotional difficulties this weekend, or family issues, or when we get together with a lot of people, there are always issues and different personalities, and to sit back and not respond, to ponder things, and to focus on you and say a little prayer if there's something that's not going quite right. We know that you're always here in your provision for us, in your protection for us, in your guidance and your defense. You're so good to us. You've been a great, great friend. We love you so very much. And we thank you for this day and every day, and that you've given us. It is a gift. And we're going to be present in this day, and walking with you, abiding with you, and just thank you for everything. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. There we go, boys and girls. So last words, Ralph and Karen.
I think we'll see if we can get last words this time or not. But when we talk about, as usual, when we talk about Israel, it's just like we're talking about the corruption in our own government. It's not about the Israeli people. It's about the corruption. We're criticizing the corruption in other governments. Same with China. We don't have a problem with the Chinese people. It's with the corruption that we see. And I mean, heck, I feel bad for the Chinese people and what their government does to them. And it's the same kind of thing we're fighting against here. We're speaking out against our own government and their treatment of our fellow Americans. And all of that information, you need to be able to critically analyze that sort of thing, because What's the first step of troubleshooting of any problem? Figure out what the problem is.
Karen.
Well, it kind of makes me think, we probably have some equivalents to ourselves in other countries. You think about like sister cities. Maybe we have like brothers and sisters in other countries who are rooting for America because they're limited in how effective they can be, but they really want to make changes. And perhaps they'll get some inspiration if we're successful over here with what we do. Also throw out, I'm going to be posting on Telegram that Substack article. If you can tell me what the title of it is. Again, we were talking about possibly
Hang on a
discussing
second.
it.
Let me see if I can get to the correct. I got to get to the correct browser so I can put it up here a minute. And it is right here. Oh, you guys give me all these hard things to do. Juggling so many things online.
I'll post it again. Historic Declarations is what it's called. And it was great because I happened across this other declaration from 10 years ago. And I wrote a Substack about it a year or two ago. If you've never heard of that, that's an interesting piece of history. I cite my sources in there and explain what similarities there were between them. In a brief, it was a letter to England from the colonies who got together just like they did for the Constitution, for the Declaration of Independence. Hey, we need to tell them that they're oppressing us. But the first one was really polite. And 10 years later, they said a lot of the same kinds of things, but they said, we mean it now. And it's kind of like what we're doing, at least some people are doing, the Constitution Party starting to do, others doing with resolutions and notices. Hey, you're doing the wrong thing, Mr. Government official, whatever they want to be called. You're doing the wrong thing, fix it, or we're going to fix it for you. In a lawful manner, of course, lawful and peaceful. And here, this is a tradition in our country, but it goes back further than we think. It's further than 1776. And they were already at war on the 4th of July, 1776. This wasn't the declaration and then the war started. And I didn't know that for a long time either.
Yeah, I think going back to this, it's important to remember that we need to do this in a lawful manner and push that as far as we can. But I'm pretty extra sure that I know some people that are at the end of their rope with us. In fact, our whole United States is getting fed up with all of this. If we can't settle this in a lawful manner, God help us if it ever goes to a kinetic war or civil war on our land. And I really do think that that's what the bad guys are hoping happens. I pray to God that it never goes to that, because the outcome of that is not going to be good. No matter how, war is never good. Taking up arms is the last. And I mean, when you have exhausted absolutely everything else, that is the last and the worst outcome we could ever hope for. And so we don't want that to happen. So we need to get into studying these documents and figuring out ways to sue them pro se, do other methods, educate people other than having it devolve into a civil war. We don't want that. So anyhow, with that said, everybody, I hope you have a great Independence Day. I hope you have a wonderful time with your family and celebrate true freedom. And let's work towards a personal plan for independence and what we need to do for that. So with that said, let's go to that part of the show, boys and girls. Ding, 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 ding. Go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, wearing cowboy boots. I'll wear them better, and we'll talk about real stuff. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Have a great day. It's a choice. When you walk with God, it is a choice every day to step out there, put a smile on your face, be a warrior for positivity and good, call out the things that are wrong, and Make your presence known. Be inspired this weekend in everything you do to stand for something. Be independent of the satanic system that we are literally fighting right now. And be there for your neighbors, friends, and family, and enjoy every minute. It's a gift God has given us. Have a great day. I will not be on tomorrow. 99% sure of that. So we'll give you those odds again. But I do plan to be back on Monday morning. So have a wonderful weekend.